What's up, everybody? Today I will be talking about topic number 25, and for topic number 25 I'll be doing a few things different. Number one is that I am not placing my camera on a fixed place. Normally I'll find a place like a table or something to support my phone when I speak, and this will be the first video where I'll be recording with the camera in my own hands. And if you're wondering where I'm recording, for privacy reasons, I'm not going to tell you. So for topic number 25, I'll be talking about globalization versus cultural identity. So what is globalization? Now, globalization is basically to make this world basically into one. It's like integrating every human being in this world. And how am I going to relate these two? I'll be discussing in this video. Now, the thing that globalization versus cultural identity, the way that I describe globalization is to integrate all human beings as one, which is to have similar identities, to act in almost the same way. And globalization is normally done through social media, where you can see different people get influenced by like YouTube, Facebook, especially the things that are shared on social media. You can see nowadays more and more people, like say for example, Chinese people. We are starting to be more westernized. We speak better English, and we behave more open compared to the traditional conservative type of Chinese culture. We are nowadays more open-minded, and we are more accepting more and more traits from other cultures, which is a form of globalization, where the Western culture is kind of taking over and influencing other cultures. And how do I compare this to cultural identity? In the first place, what do you mean by cultural identity? Now, you know your own identity. You have a birth date, you have a nationality, you have your own personality that defines yourself. So that's culture. For example, Asian culture is more of conservative. We talk about manners, we have lots of emphasis on behavior, while Western cultures are more of being open-minded and having more freedom. So it's kind of two different things, and these aspects are the ones that differ culture to culture, and hence creating an identity between both cultures. Now, do I feel that globalization is a good thing? Well, in a way that we can get more exposure through social media, we can understand other cultures is a good thing, because getting along is one thing that many humans really want to achieve. But then we often have cultural barriers. So being able to step out of your culture, accept other cultures, and sometimes even adapt some other cultures as a form of exchange of knowledge is very good. So this side of globalization is a good thing. We learn more and we gain knowledge. But one thing I do not like about globalization is the main focus that why I'm putting at the end versus cultural identity. As you can see that nowadays, many people from minority cultures like Asian culture or African culture or other cultures other than the Western culture, we are getting more and more influenced. Like you can see more and more Chinese people speaking better and better English. Good thing. But they are progressively not as good in Chinese anymore. You can see that bananas, not the fruit banana, the banana as if in Chinese people who literally cannot speak English. This is a stereotypical term they use in Malaysia as of I know now. Many Chinese people are getting weaker in Mandarin, Chinese, and we are better in English. But then, do not forget that the Chinese language is part of the identity of the Chinese culture. And in the Chinese culture, we use chopsticks. We eat Chinese food, delicacies. But nowadays, many Chinese people, they resort to speaking more English, as I mentioned, and we're used to eating the Western way, using knives and forks. I mean, I do not oppose using knives and forks, but the kind of worrying thing is that are we losing our identity of being the culture that uses chopsticks? I think you know, right? And many Chinese people love to act like Western strippers. Okay, I'm not trying to stereotype any sort of culture. Is that if you want to adapt another culture, adapt the positive side, but do not adapt a new culture to a point where your culture loses its identity and you end up adopting another culture, including adopting the negative side of that particular culture. Every culture has a good side and a downside. Chinese culture has better discipline, however, promotes less freedom. Western culture promotes more freedom, however, there is a high tendency of overusing this freedom. That is more of a similar case. Many Chinese people adapt a lot of Western culture to a point they even adopt the negative side of the Western culture, which in turn includes excessively possessing this culture to a point where we have neglected our identity as Asians or Chinese. Which is why nowadays we talk about culture deterioration. Don't you notice that modern culture is so easy to take over the world? Social media. And that's the problem. That's the problem we're looking at. And please, do not get me wrong, I am not opposing any form of culture. It's just that we must be aware of what we're doing with globalization. Are we using the globalization scenario to our advantage, or are we ending up depleting our culture through globalization? So that's basically the main point. And another thing I want to go into is not all cultures are good cultures. Do not forget, time changes, so is culture. Culture is the way we do things, is our mindset, is the way how we think. But then, there are some cultures that are not right. I won't want to name the culture, but by stating these characteristics, you kind of get it. A culture that talks about chopping off your hand if you steal. A culture that talks about beheading people who don't want to believe in their faith. A culture that promotes being judgmental. That is not good. However, it's being adopted everywhere. And you may be saying, well, every culture is a good side. But remember, some cultures are not good cultures. And in the end, these cultures created a lot of catastrophe. We look at many cases of the refugee crisis. We talk about lorries being driven onto sidewalks killing people. We're talking about public bombing. Yeah, you may be getting what I'm talking about. So literally saying, not all cultures are good cultures. And the problem is, many people aren't aware. And because of globalization, people are adopting cultures simply they just want globalization, not being aware that they must be able to filter out the positive side and the negative side of a certain culture, adopt the positive and discard the negative. This is the biggest weakness of humans today. And that is another contributing factor to cultural depletion. So that's practically much of my opinion. If you disagree, fine. Everybody has their own opinion. It's a free world where we can talk. As long as your opinion stays neutral, clear cut, and doesn't pinpoint on anything, that's pretty much a good opinion. You can agree, you can disagree. And if you agree, like this video and subscribe to my channel on your wish. On your wish. And I may sound a little bit mediocre in this video. It's because I've been a bit tired, but I have got inspiration, so I'd like to share my ideas with you guys. So please don't mind if I'm not good at editing, and please don't ask too much of me to speak like a professional, because I'm just speaking from a general point of view and from how I perceive and from my exposure. So hopefully this information can be informative to the people who are watching. So thank you for your time. 9 minutes and almost 40 seconds. Thank you for all this time that you've been watching, and I'll catch you up in my next video. Thank you. Peace.